All right, guys. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight's guest is not a YouTuber. It's a member, or rather, one of the founders, if you will, from Bravest for Choice. So I will have probably maybe one more other guest on from Bravest for Choice. We're going to continue talking about this situation that's going on here in the city. Uh, she is actually going to talk about her story and what it was like going through the bullshit that they went through. And again, guys, I think she has 7 years on or something like that, or something close to it. And it sucks when you don't have time to vest out or able to retire, such as myself and a few others. That being said, guys, do me a favor and pay respects and listen to what she has to say about the BS that they went through, or rather she went through during the last 10 months or whatever it was. Ma'am,
Hey, how's it going, Jason?
hey, what's up? Thank you for joining me today. By the way,
Thanks for having me.
not a problem.
So,
Well, listen.
yeah, I am. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I heard part of your story and the struggles that you were going through, and I'd like you to elaborate on that a little more. And by the way, guys, we are going to talk about other things as well tonight, but this is just one of the issues I wanted to get across, how this mandate was affecting people, the regular working class person who's putting their life on the line for the city.
So, yeah, like you said, I actually have, for clarity, I have 14 years. I just made 14 years in July, and I served right out of high school, so I was able to buy back my time. So you get to buy back 3 years, so that would put me like at 17, pretty much on the books, and I think now it's on the front end.
Very good.
But with that being said, I had always thought that I would, make a career of past 20, like probably 23, 25. Just like most firefighters do. Most firefighters don't try to retire at 20, some guys age out. Um, and they're happy, we're happy going to work. So when this mandate came out, we actually saw it coming down the pipe. It was myself and one other guy in my firehouse that were very vigilant during this time, and we kind of saw the chips falling. And he was a little more pessimistic than I was. I was a little more optimistic in that I said, this is definitely coming for us, but I think it's going to be like when they brought CFR on the job, where the older guys, they got to kind of just sign themselves out of that. It wasn't a condition of their employment when they got on, so a lot of the older guys was like, that's not what I signed on. So they just decided not to take part of that. And I figured that we would be grandfathered in to what our condition of employment was, and that the new hires would, for sure, this would be a new condition of employment for them. This other guy was like, no, I can see this. Like, he's like, that makes sense. But nothing to this point has made sense with this management of this disease. So I I hope you're right, but I don't think you are. So with that, like I remember he would send emails to the union. He would urge me to send emails to the union. I started going to the union meetings and sounding the alarm, and that was the inception of Bravest for Choice, because it started like Paul had told you in a group text that then I was added into like a few days later. They had a Zoom meeting, and it was almost like a recruitment poster, like join us now if you want to fight these mandates. And I'm like, oh, I want to join that Zoom, so I got onto the Zoom, um, and we were just talking, spitballing, and afterwards they're like, hey, we want you on the administrative side of this chat because you brought up a lot of good points or whatever. A couple of the guys knew me, and it just went from there. And that was the start of Bravest for Choice, which actually started as like the kitchen table chat on Telegram, right?
Right, right.
And from there, we were able to orchestrate the biggest march that the city has seen in a very long time. I would venture to say that it's the biggest march for civil rights that the city has seen. It was like anywhere from 12,000, the estimates were at the lower side, to 15,000. And the crazy part was that we looked around and there was no real media. And there was one helicopter in the sky. We took over the Brooklyn Bridge for over 2 hours. And there was a helicopter in the sky, but it was only a PD helicopter. There was no eyewitness news, no news, no media was covering it. And the media that I did see there, they didn't cover us the way they would cover it now. The narrative was very different back then. They continue to call us anti-vaxxers, where if I show you all the speeches, because we vetted everybody that was going to speak too, because we didn't want to be portrayed in that way about being anti-vaxxers. For us, we chose the name Bravest for Choice because it's about choice. It's about being Americans and having the freedom of choice in every aspect of your life, including medical choice. Um, so that's what we stood for, and we said it ad nauseum at that rally, and we were still painted as anti-vaxxers, as if we were rabble rousers, as if we were the minority, when in reality, when this mandate first started and they had the polls up in the news, our agency was one of the least vaccinated and one of the most hesitant to want to, voluntarily take this vaccine. And it wasn't until, and you know what, I'm not even going to keep calling it a vaccine. I'm just going to refer to it as a shot because it's not a true vaccine in the true sense of the word as a
Right.
polio vaccine. So up until the mandate actually came down and people started to really get that carrot dangled in their face that you're going to lose this money, you're going to lose this pension, whatever, that's when those numbers started to creep up in compliance. And so then there we were. We started off strong. We started off like 2,000 something on that chat, guys saying that they're never going to do this. They can't tell me what to do. All the stuff that I believe in my heart, like, you're not going to tell me what to do with my body. I was born free. I'm going to die free. And that could be penniless, but you're not going to tell me what to do. And I'm not going to let my kids see me grovel for a job, um, and try to keep it by, putting my body through something that I didn't want to do that. I just didn't feel comfortable doing it.
Right.
So I think that God gives us free will, number one. And so I'm never going to let any kind of man tell me what to do. And I use man as mankind. Like, I'm not going to let any kind of dictator tell me and my family what we can and can't do with our bodies.
It's funny because you know, I thought, and this is selfish. This was a selfish thought, but I thought that like the guys in my firehouse battalion division that were like, yo, we're not doing this shit. Fuck that, you know. And I'll take the LWAP and we'll do a couple weeks, yada yada yada, right? And I was like, okay, let's but I guess because I thought it was just my area, like my house. I thought that was it. I thought that I'm like, man, I work with a bunch of cowards because that's what I was calling them for a long time, and I still do to this day. I'll even call it to their face. Listen, like you bailed on us when if we would have stayed strong, we would have absolutely won it right out of the gates. But
100%.
right, and it was just even when the union got what the fuck's that guy's name? The president of the union, when he got in everyone's ass, because I remember him saying, he sat there and he yelled at everybody on the stage. He's like, "What did I tell you guys to do? I told you guys to go into work, sign the book, and leave." He said, "I didn't tell you guys to take the arm ticket," and the room was fucking dead quiet. And I was like, "Holy shit!" Like he was, I guess he was just pissed at the whole situation. He finally blew up and had enough. But watching, I think people like yourself and Paul and so many others go through this shit and stick to your guns, I was proud of that. And I was like, but what was I expect? Would I expect more? Or this was the group of people that I should have looked to and up to. I mean, listen, a lot of us held our grounds, but some of us, we had escape hatches and others didn't, you know?
Hmm.
And so it does suck for me because in one aspect, I should have fucking just taken the long LWAP. I should just like, fuck it, I'm going to hold my ground. But like you said, when they were talking about you could lose your pension and all this other bullshit, I'm like, I don't know if that's true. And one of the union guys was like, he says, I don't know if it's true, but he goes, if I was you, I wouldn't take that gamble. Um, and we don't know to this day. We just don't fuck. We won't. I'll never know. With that being said, uh, I did see a small news coverage on us going across the bridge, and it was painted as
Hmm.
you said. They called us anti-vaxxers, uh, and they didn't give us the grand shot that would have showed the city, holy shit, these guys are serious, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna say 15,000. Fuck them and their low count of 12. We're gonna say it was 15,000 dudes out there, right? It was almost 2 hours of people coming across the bridge, you know, and
Hmm.
uh, and even then they refused to hear our message, even as I would say as civil as you guys made it, and they still gave us shit. Now, what were the? Sorry, I got it.
Hmm.
We're gonna get into the meat of the shit. How bad was it, or how pissed were you when all of this shit went down?
I was pissed. Um, I was upset at the fact that, you know, I thought that everybody would stand together, and you hear, about the brotherhood of the fire department, and I think that the reason that that march was so big was because people were looking to us. Because that march wasn't just firefighters. It wouldn't have been that big if it were.
Right,
It was all the city agencies were out there in
right,
mass. Teachers were out there. Everyday workers were out there, and I think that they were looking at us like that Mr. Rogers thing where he said his mom would always say, in an emergency, it's scary, but always look to the first responders. Like what they're doing, you know it's going to be okay because they're there. So I think during that time, I'm like, yes, yes, we are the beacon of hope. We are going to bring this city together, and we're going to show that together, that was the message the whole time, together we can show the city that they need to give us the respect that we deserve as city workers, as first responders, as the people that responded every day during the COVID emergency, right? And I was really hopeful after that day. I thought that that was going to shift the tide.
right,
I thought that people were going to, I made the mistake of thinking that everybody operates at the same level that I do because I'm like a no safety net person. So when I came onto this job, I was working at the UN before this, and it was a good job. Um, and they had told me, one of the chiefs that worked there, he said it's also like very paramilitary. And he's like, "Hey, Soph, if it doesn't work out, keep your foot in the door. Like we won't take you off. Just come back." And I'm like, "No, thank you. I appreciate that, but if I have that out, I'm not gonna make it through the academy. I need to know. I need to like leave everything behind, and then I just got to go in, and I got to do it because if not, there's nothing left."
right,
So that's how I think on my end that was my failure, that I expected everyone to act in the way that I would have, like, because I see people's potential and I know that we could have done that. And
right,
that's what I expected from every other member on the job because I knew I wasn't in a position to lose money. But I'm like, if I can do it, then so can everybody else.
exactly.
And everybody, once they see me, I have a lot to lose. I felt like, especially my family were both first responders. We would both be losing money. Um, I figured, yes, everybody's going to be on board. We're a very diverse crowd. This isn't a one party issue. This is about choice. This is going to bring people together. People are going to do it. And so I was disappointed. I was disappointed that it didn't work out like that. But at the same time, I'm compassionate too, because if the whole world was like me, then that shit would be boring too. Like,
Yeah,
and then we wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have gotten to like test my mettle in the way I did and walk, this path, and Tommy and I having to do this together and making us stronger in this. So, but I was pissed. I was pissed. I couldn't believe that I felt like we were just cast aside and that nobody cared, especially like once people, because what I wanted to is that it was about choice. So it wasn't like I was telling anybody, oh, don't get the shot, don't get the shot. It's like, please just let's stand together. Whatever you decide to do, if you could hold out one tour, if you could hold out 10 tours, if you could hold out until this shit ends, whatever you do, just please keep showing up. Because when they see us together, it's not just me alone. It's not just Paul alone. It's not just Matt alone. It's like, it's all of us together, and they're going to continue to see us. And if you got the shot and you felt coerced, speak out on that. Like, just be the voice and stop. Don't stop talking about it until they listen. Because all of these civil rights movements, nobody gave us shit. Nobody ever just gave us stuff out of benevolence. Everything had to be fought for. And it really pissed me off. It really pissed me off that my community, the Latinos didn't speak out, that the blacks didn't speak out, that the LGBTQ community didn't speak out. Because if you know just a little bit about history, you know that Fauci fucked up the AIDS crisis. You know he was a part of that. If you know a little bit about history, you know about Henrietta Lacks and the Tuskegee experiments. You know just a little bit about history. You know about the women that were forced to get hysterectomies as population control and birth control
Right.
under the guise of public safety. And any time that any government has done anything under the guise of public health and public safety, it's been it's been a dub.
Yeah.
It's been a lie, and it's been used to control people, to manipulate people, and to turn people against each other, and have other things happening in the background. And that's not a conspiracy. That's a fact.
Right. Right. And guys, so I mean, a couple of these people heard me talk about Fauci and his fuck ups before. Not his fuck ups before, but the main one that killed a lot of people in the 80s and 90s because he wanted the fame and the stamp and all. I mean, the history on Fauci, why he did it, was pretty interesting. And so anyway, with that, I mean, listen, you're absolutely right. Now, you and Paul said, I'm compassionate about those that who chose to take it and stayed. Man, me, I was like, fuck that and fuck them. I was ready to set the fucking stage on fire because I would, you know what? Because like you, I made the fatal mistake in trusting dudes to that level. Because you figure we trust each other with our lives, right? I can go to your house on a detail and automatically know,
Yeah,
all right, we're in, and if shit gets hot, we're there for each other, and we might not even know each other from a hole in the wall until that day, right? And so
yeah,
if we're all willing to throw our lives on the line for one another, I said, what would it take to throw a couple of tours on the line, and some money for one another to make this shit happen? And so
yeah.
when guys got scared and took the arm ticket, I was like, motherfuckers. I'm like, you could run into a burning building and not have any fear, but that's where you draw the line? A fucking bald-headed mayor, not a bald-headed mayor, but an asshole mayor and fucking, what you call it? I said, this is where we go? And and that was it. And then everybody left. And I guess like you and a few of us, at least me, I felt like I was alone. I was like, fuck. And I know I stepped away from your group because I was like, fuck that. Like I'm telling you, I had it out with everyone. Um, and then because I saw the numbers drop so much, like an asshole, I dropped out of the group. And then I told Paul a few weeks ago, I saw you guys on Instagram. And I'm like, holy shit, they're still fucking doing it? I'm like, and I'm sitting here fucking being a bitch and fucking complaining, and they're still out there doing it. I'm like, fuck that. So, I told him whatever you need me to do from here on out, I'll do. Whether I get my job back or not is irrelevant, right? If you guys need me to help,
Right.
but the whole like, you know, guys abandoning us. I till this day, man. I'm like, yo, thanks cowards for fucking us in the ass. And they're like, well, you. I was like, I'm fucking with you, but am I really? And then I'll walk away,
Mhm.
because it was like you said, it was shitty. It's
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was just a shitty feeling. But when I was talking to Paul and you guys, I'm like, all right, so I wasn't the only one that felt that way. That's a good thing. It's a very good thing. Now, I have to ask you this question. Where did I know
hmm
the answer to the question, but I need you to answer it for some of the
hmm
viewers. Where did you serve, or who did you serve with? Rather, sorry.
Oh, so right out of high school, I joined the Marines. I grew up in the Bronx, and so I got recruited out of the Fordham Road Station, and like right after high school, I spent the summer, my last summer in the city, and then I went in October to Paris Island, and I did 4 years, and it was a great time. That was one thing too. I thought I would do like 20 years in the Marines, but once you're in, you're like, this is a different animal. Like, it was great, it was fun,
All
and
right.
I had lifelong friends, but it wasn't, what I thought it was going to be, and maybe I didn't have the MOS. I was actually just talking to one of my Marine buddies before I got home tonight, and he was telling me that his son is gonna go the officer route, and I'm like, yeah. I always say I don't want my kids to have to join the military, especially nowadays.
All right.
But if they did it, I would try to like make them do it a little bit differently than I did. Get their school paid for outright. Like make it work for them in a better way, and come out with a job that it translates better.
Right.
So
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I didn't have the at the time. I didn't have the balls to join the military, or rather, go through with the whole process. I wish I would have now that I'm older, but that's the problem. When you get older and you know things, you're like, fuck. And my, I don't know why, but back then I didn't have the grit I have now. And
Mm,
I didn't have the anger or the all go attitude. I didn't have that back then. But once
yeah.
I became,
No, this has been me forever. Like
you
I've
know,
always been if anything, I hold back a little bit more now because, I have a family to think of. Um I would always say if I was still like piss and vinegar when I was 18 years old and this would have happened, like they really would have hurt me. Like, you know.
well, listen.
But
When I was younger, I was talking about, and this is recent. I was talking about fucking throwing shoes and all kinds of shit at Eric Adams like recently. So like, and had I been younger, I would have probably done so. But when I talked about grit, you need a certain kind of balls to join the military, right? Um,
mhm.
my grit back then wasn't that. I was like, I don't want to fucking join the military, and I don't want to like follow somebody's orders. Again, now that I'm older, I and you join the fire department, you're like, maybe I could have fucking done it. Because listen, when I got to the fire department, that whole like when you're a probie and they're telling you do this and do that, and I'm like, all right, then you clean the sink, or you fucking, you clean the rig, and then they're like, all right, take the officer's mask. You're like, and then at one point, of course, this is when I
You're
first
like, why? He's a grown ass man.
yeah, I'm like, yo, did anybody tell them slavery's over? Like that's the kind of shit I would say. They're like, you fuck,
You gotta look around like, is everybody doing this? It's like,
yeah, yeah,
oh, okay, I
right. And
guess.
then like on cue, when they ask me to take the mask back, I look and I see this
No,
fucking,
Nick, honestly, I found that real funny too, because having come from the military and then coming into the fire department, things were a little different. Like in the Marines, it was always like the higher ups always look out for the junior members,
right,
and it's the opposite in the fire department. It's like you get it all when you're a senior member, and the junior member gets like everything last. It's like you get the scraps at first.
right,
But I get it too. Like whatever, I figured it out. Um, and whatever. And that's the thing too. Like I think people might think that, oh, maybe she's just a rabble rouser and she just doesn't like conformity. And honestly, that could be like the furthest thing from the truth. I actually do like structure. I like stability. I like the hierarchy of the military and the fire department. And I'm a very good follower of good leaders. When I see though that something isn't right, um, the Marines always say like lead, follow, or get out of the way. So if I see that something's not being done right, if it is unlawful, if it's not something that sits well with my soul, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And that's just the way I am.
And that's, it's funny because that's exactly what this whole thing was. When they were telling us, yo, you take this shit or you're suspended, I'm like, man, they really doing this? And then I'm like, and that's some shit out of a movie. I'm like, am I gonna have to make a
Yeah,
career decision over this shit?
yeah,
And I'm like, well,
yeah,
fuck it, and I'm like, burn the bridges, and that was my reaction. Um,
yeah.
but when I
And it
heard,
didn't make sense. It didn't make sense when we know that our job, like, and our unions have fought so hard for like, and they're supposed to, and they do it well when you have guys that show up in the paper for whatever, a DWI, beating up their wives or whatever, or, allegedly, right? It's all
right,
an accusation until innocent until proven guilty. And that's the way it should be. So for this to just happen without any like due process for everybody, I made a joke today at my firehouse because I had lunch with them today. And I'm like, it would have been better off. We would have been better off if Tommy would have beat the shit out of me, right? And then I could have played the victim because that seems to be like what gets everybody now. Like, I can be the victim of white supremacy. Um, Tommy would be represented well by the union at this point. We would both still have our jobs
yeah, yeah, very
rather
good,
than have gone against the man. Like, it's such craziness. Like, it
yeah,
doesn't make sense. All for not putting something into my body. When every year, when we do our medicals, you want the flu shot? No, thanks. All right, sign here. All
right.
right. You want your tetanus shot? No, thank you. Okay. Sign. All right, refused. Every year. Oh, I see you still have titers for varicella. Did you have the chicken pox when you were younger? Yeah, I did. Okay. How is this different?
I know, but this one they dropped the hammer on, and that's why
Yeah,
I think a lot of us were confused. I'm like, yo, it's like seriously, and you brought up a great point. I could have probably drove my fucking car through a front window of a McDonald's and been put on light duty, and
yeah,
and then nothing. But I said no to an arm ticket, and they're like, you're suspended. I'm like, how?
yeah,
Like that's a great
yeah.
fucking point you
And
make.
I still see people. I still see people at BHS that are still going through their due process of stuff that I know they did or they were accused of doing. Let
Okay,
me not misspeak, but yeah, they're still going through the motions, and that is due process. That is what they should be doing, but they've been on payroll this whole time.
right, yeah, yeah,
How is this different? So that's another way that I knew like this is different. Like they're really trying to force people, they're trying to coerce people, they're trying to scare people. And that is a very red flag to me. When I see that people want me to operate out of fear, I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm not gonna be no, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not gonna act out of fear because that's how you want me to act now.
yeah.
So I'm not gonna do it.
And
Even if it's scary. I'm not saying I'm not scared, but now I'm not gonna act scared. You know what I mean?
it's funny because there were guys, man. They're like, yo, I ain't taking that shit. I don't know. Ah, shit. I'm gonna have to bring her back on or have her come back on. Sorry, she got cut off. Um, hopefully she could. Hopefully she realizes she was on. Am I still on? All right, she's back.
Hey, can you see me?
Yes, I can. Yeah, the internet was acting up.
Okay.
Um, one of my buddies, Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival, said internet, and I said, "Oh shit!" And as soon as he said that, you started getting fuzzy, and then you went off. I was like, "Motherfucker!" All right, so so
They be
five by five.
watching.
Yeah, they definitely are. They're probably trying to cancel this whole bullshit. Someone said you did it on purpose. Yeah, but all right, 5 by 5. Thank you guys, appreciate it. But you, I mean, listen, there was one kid in particular in my house, man. He was like, "Yo, I'm not taking it. Fuck that. We're gonna do this." And then when it came down to it, he was like, I turned around. I find out through somebody else he took it. I'm like, "Yo, you seriously took the shot?" He's like, "I had to, man." And I was like, "Yo, what about taking fucking days off?" And they're like, "I can't afford it." I'm like, "This fucking kid has a year
Listen,
on the job and he can't afford it and he's taking off." He took off about 2 weeks, I think 3 weeks. This kid, the other kid,
Yeah.
the Johnny, and
Hmm.
and he took a beating. He took a beating anyway. So I think, like you said, people were scared and they came up with all
Yeah.
kinds of excuse. And I'm like, and that's when I made the decision, man. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna die on this hill. Fuck them.
Yeah.
You know, if this is
Yeah.
Hamburger Hill, this is where I fucking die. I'm not gonna,
Exactly.
you know. And then that's what happened.
Yeah.
You know,
Because then this is going to be a fight that it's never going to end. Honestly, if people wouldn't have made noise, if everybody would have just complied, no one would have ever known that this mandate came and went, and then it would have been just something else. I keep telling the guys now, I'm like, because guys will DM me and say like, "Yo, I wish I could have done what you did," and I'm like, "You could have, but okay, you didn't." But be vigilant for the next time because they're gonna try this shit again, and now you know that yeah, you got to take a hard stand on this. Everybody does, or it's going to work again. We're going to keep doing more with less. Um, Specifically, like things on the job, like they continue to threaten with closing houses or taking the fifth man, things like that. It's annoying.
yeah,
Like, why do we keep doing more with less? No, call that extra company. You know,
yeah, really,
call when you're riding short because somebody got hurt, let it be known. Send that detail over, hire somebody. This is what we're working with. Stop doing more with less. When the city showed us that we are nothing but a number to them, we're not nothing but a number to each other. But if the city's treating us as such, then have them bean counters at City Hall and at Metro Tech. Then count some more checks. This is more overtime now that you're creating, and
well,
let it be.
I heard you guys are. I heard the overtime's out of control.
At that hearing the other day, it was like the week after that initial hearing where I ran into you.
Yeah,
They said that the FDNY had the highest overtime rates and overtime spending in the city of New York. It's unreal. And they obviously made it worse. The whole COVID response made it worse.
right,
And then them putting people out doesn't help matters.
right. No, it didn't. Listen, it's there across the bear. I mean, at this point, man, I'm just in it to make sure everyone else gets back on. I can care. I mean, I'm at a point where if I get back on, great. If I don't, oh the fuck well, I'll fucking buy a
Hmm.
sail into the fucking sunset or some shit, you know. But
Yeah.
it's for us, for a lot of us, it's done. And I know a couple of guys that said they wouldn't even bother coming back, you know, even if they could. Actually, they're not even interested, so they're not paying attention to what's going on. But
Yeah.
and listen, I understand that, and I'm sort of in that same boat. Like if I got a call tomorrow from the union, would I go back? I would have to think about it, talk to the wife, you know, go to my firehouse, talk to the guys. What do they think? Because I'm not if I go back, as retired guys, if we go back, I don't think they're gonna put us
Hmm.
back in the same house we left out of. They're gonna ship us somewhere
Yeah,
else
maybe.
just for punishment.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it. Just
Although
put me.
that would probably be, some people would consider that retaliatory, especially if their firehouse is not full. But
Well, yeah,
I don't know if I would have been able to retire. I probably would have. If I always say if I were younger, like if I had less than 5 years on the job, I would have been like, whatever, I'll stay on LWAP indefinitely, and I'll ride this wave, and I'll go and travel because if you're young, you have way less to lose, in my opinion. And
yes,
then on the flip side, if I had the 20 years to retire, I probably would have done the LWAP for a while, and then been like, see ya, I'm done. The city has proven that I'm nothing but a number, and they really showed their ass too with. So Tommy got an award for Medal Day, uh, and they sent him a letter saying, "Oh, you can show up to, I think it was like at the seaport or something, wherever it was."
right,
They're like, "Oh, you're gonna have to either show proof of vaccination or show a PCR test 72 hours before or whatever, and in your family, like no families allowed, and all this shit." And he's like, "All right, send that shit in the mail then, because I'm not doing that. Like, I literally was working during COVID, exposing myself when this happened that you guys are trying to give me an award for a medal. I think it might have been a company medal.
Okay.
And that's how not Buffy we are. Like, especially me, I don't even know what the medal was. Like, I know what he did, but I don't know what the medal was. Like,
You still don't
and he was just like, I'm not gonna go. First of all, he's like, you're a firefighter. Why can't you be there? That doesn't make any sense because you're working too. And I'm gonna go there and be there without my family, and I'm not subjecting the kids to these PCR tests. He's like, no, I'm good. Whatever. So that's the kind of like
know? Right.
this guy. You guys are trying to decorate him, but you're also telling him that his family can't be there because of COVID. That we just worked nonstop. He was group A, I think. I was group D, or he was B and I was D, because
Yeah.
they changed the charts during that time.
Yeah.
So it was like tag you're in, tag you're out, tag you're in, tag you're out. We were like a revolving door during that time, taking care of our kids, doing the remote learning. Another failure on the city, that remote learning crap, where we
That was
eventually just pulled our kids out of school and we're like, you know what, we're going to homeschool them because they're not learning anything like this. And they probably weren't learning anything before that anyway, too.
no. Well, listen, it's gotten a lot worse since that. So I mean, right
Mhm.
now, like the first day of school, my daughter's like, "Oh, they were talking about they wanted to know all our pronouns." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You fucking kidding me?" She was like, "No," and so I'm sitting there like, there's so many things that kids can learn today. I mean, the world is a mass. It's a vast world. You can learn so much shit. And they sat here for the first day and moving forward about pronouns. And then I think later in the year they do some bullshit LGBT crap with the kids. Again,
Mhm.
like focus. I mean, listen, the kids here in New York, the grades are horrendous just across the board,
Mhm.
especially amongst Black and Spanish kids. It's horrendous. But they focus on
Yeah,
is, uh, let's see what kind of event we can get the kids to walk out on. Oh, what this politician said? What about abortion? Let's have the kids walk out on it. They either having kids
I
walk out
know.
on bullshit or practicing their pronouns and how to switch them day to day. And I'm like, I didn't have the patience to homeschool. I looked into it, and I was like, nope. And I saw a really easier plan. It's like a couple of hours, and then you take them out, and the outside is like gym and nature and science. And I'm like, we live in the city. Like if we lived upstate New
Yeah.
York, I could get away with that shit. But
No, you could do it here.
yeah,
That's one of those things that it's like it was daunting at first, but you just got to step out of that fear. No one could teach your kids better than you can.
true.
Especially, how old are your kids?
13 and shit, 14.
The way I see it is especially once your kids can read, they can really self-direct and really show you who they are. Like, I
Okay,
think one of the biggest gifts that I've received from the homeschooling journey has been that I really know my kids. Like, a teacher's not telling me who my kid is. I'm getting to see my kid day to day grow, have their failures, talk to them about bouncing back from things and letting them like lead me in what they like, what they don't like, why they don't like it, why they feel a way about something. And I find my kids really interesting. Like, I'm interested in them, they're interested in me. um so I like it. They And it's not easy, and we don't do it by ourselves, thank God. We've built a really nice community,
okay.
and we're in Brooklyn, so it's doable. It's definitely not, like I said, no one knows your kid better than you. And I don't want anybody telling me who my kid is. I want to know who my kid is, and I want my kid to know me, and to know that I have their back, and that I'm not gonna just be sending them off to the wolves to be indoctrinated all day.
Well, thank God. I mean, they both have their own minds, and they don't buy into the bullshit.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
if they listen, I think that's where the wife and I were concerned. If they started believing that shit, if they started buying,
Mhm.
then we were gonna have to pull them out. As much as I would have hated it to do it, because again, I don't have the patience. Um,
Mhm.
but when we spoke to them about it, and they said how silly it was and how stupid it is, I'm like, okay, so we'll leave them. I said we'll leave them in, but I said if you guys become the outcast, it's going to get hard, and then we might we might
Yeah,
pull you out. But they're doing fine. They know how to navigate that shit. They're smart enough to know how to navigate
that's
that.
good.
that
Yeah, critical thinking is important, and it's not to bash any other ways of thinking, but kids need to be resilient and they need to really understand, not what to think. They need to know how to think, and they need to be able to like gain that discernment that only comes from like being able to go through things and make up their own minds and change their minds too. They have to be able to, like, home is the safe space, you know?
right.
Like, they got to be able to be themselves at home, and everything else is just extra to me.
And yes, and then you're right. And the crazy shit is, I mean, like, listen, you're paying attention to this fucking crime in the city.
Oh my God.
I mean, like your home needs to be the safe space now. Uh,
Yeah,
it's it's as if we went backwards, right?
it's
You
bad.
right? I mean,
It's bad.
we behind the scenes we were talking about the EMS lady who was stabbed, what, like 20 times or something like that. And
Yeah.
it's insane when you have an EMS worker. I mean, she was out getting lunch and
Hmm.
minding her business, and she gets killed. You know, I think that's bad news. The
Yeah.
EMS union is actually nervous about this because they think people are going to leave.
And with good reason, because it's not safe. It's not safe out there. And it used to be, I feel like obviously cops have always had a target on them because they are the police. It doesn't make it right, but that's a fact of their job. But, FDNY for a long time, they've been revered in every community, from the hood to the more like affluent areas. So to see this happen, um, it's just really crazy. I think we're seeing in real time the fraying of society's the fabric of society. We're seeing it used to be just like one or two mentally unstable people in the train that you would see maybe once or twice a week. Now it's like
Every,
every time you take the subway, there's a person that can potentially hurt you, or at least you think, is going to hurt you. I grew up, like I said, I grew up in the Bronx. I saw a lot of shit on the trains um, from when I was a kid, but it's really bad now. Like, it's just downright dangerous where I don't even feel I take my car everywhere nowadays. Like I don't take the subway much. I don't walk around with my kids just willy-nilly. And it's almost like a trauma response because of what we see all the time and what we know we're responding to. Just the other day in Chinatown. Chinatown used to be pretty safe. That's the area where I work out of. I just saw my Citizens app. It was some guy that was found shot in the park. And then a few months back, a woman was followed into her apartment and stabbed and sexually assaulted. A stranger. It's a lot of crimes against women these days, too. So where is that coming from? Especially, this is like post Me Too movement. This is supposed to be, right, the Democratic Party. And I'm a registered Democrat. So I feel like I am one to talk. I've been a Democrat almost my whole life, I think. And I've almost always voted Democrat. And I haven't in the past couple of elections. And full disclosure, I didn't vote for Trump either. I voted third party. Um, and that's another issue. But yeah, I think in a city that claims to be so progressive and pro woman and all this stuff, it's going backwards. It's not safe to walk with your children anymore. It used to be almost like a code amongst like the thieves and the thugs. Like you're not gonna target a woman with her kids. Like,
right,
at least you know that. Like I grew up in the Bronx and then I lived in Uptown Manhattan for a while. And I felt safe when I was coming home when I was young, coming home from like, you know, hanging out, and there'd be like the drug dealers on the corner. Like they weren't gonna hurt me,
right,
because they keep that like street safety. They don't want that heat in their blocks.
right.
They they do what they do and don't bring that heat over here and don't be harassing women like that. Like they might throw you a hey mommy, but that's it, you know? And now it's ugly. I had a guy throw a rock at me like a year ago. Just a mentally unstable person. He threw a rock at me. And I didn't even know where it came. Like it didn't even register to me, and I am pretty vigilant. And the guy threw a rock, and I just looked. I thought that I hit the rock as he was walking, and that's why it just like landed at my feet. And I was just talking to one of our neighbors, and the guy said, "Yeah, next time you better keep walking or something like that." And I was like, "Oh shit, he threw that shit at me." I'm like, "This guy is crazy." So you just see it. It's so in our faces how unsafe it is. And the city was on a rise. It was one of the safest cities in the nation at this point after Giuliani and Bloomberg maintained it. Um,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
and you see it. You see it unraveling. And so let's bringing this back around like to the mandate. How funny was it? Do you remember when Bloomberg tried to put that limit on how big your sugary drinks could be,
Yes.
like at a 7-Eleven,
They got rid of him, but yeah.
and how the masses were in an uproar like, you can't tell us what to do. And it fell flat. That ruling fell flat because people were like, that's going to affect poor families because that's what they drink. And you're like, what?
Exactly. Like, well,
But
you
that shit fell on its face because people were like, you're not going to tell us, you're not going to be we're not going to turn this into a nanny state where they tell us what we can and can't put into our bodies. I remember that specifically. And I'm like, well, you also can't smoke at a bar, you know?
yeah.
But how crazy that outrage that people felt then is totally different now. Now people, when I hear people still to this day with everything that's out now talking about, well, you had to do it for public health. So while I don't agree with it, I understand. I'm like, okay, so you, it's like they found a way to convince themselves when it's okay to be enslaved.
Well, because fear. Fear is the great,
Mm-hmm.
right? You fear the shit out of you. They used to do it to slaves, and I'm not
Yep.
making a direct comparison, but how did they beat
Yeah.
slaves all over the world? Not just
Mm-hmm.
here in the United States. They beat the shit out of them, and then other
Yep.
slaves saw that and were like, "I don't want that to happen to me," and they fell in line
Yeah.
quickly, right? So
Yep.
When Mister 19 COVID came out, they scared the shit out of everybody and told them, well, you're not going to pass away if you take this. And then people were like, oh my God, we're going to need it. And then they started
Yeah.
that browbeating bullshit with, well, for those that don't take it, they're a danger to the public. And you had more people jumping on that bandwagon for those of us that didn't take it, right? So it was
Yeah.
fear that they used to get everybody in line. Because remember, there was no fear tactics used with the big sodas. They weren't sitting there like, well, listen. I mean, they tried. What they tried, like,
They tried, right? Remember the commercials where they would show like a pound of fat,
yes,
And
I'm
remember when they
sugar,
would show the lady talking like this with the cigarettes?
yes,
Like, so yeah,
they tried.
fear, there's a whole industry that's based on fear. I think there's a term for it too. I just can't remember it at this time.
What, fear
But
mongering or fear
yeah,
porn?
no, it's neither of those. It's in the marketing industry
No
that
shit.
they have a specific yeah, it's like marketing off of fear, but I can't remember this. There's a specific term for it. But yeah,
Oh,
so
somebody will throw it in the
okay,
chat. It'll pop up in
yeah,
the
hopefully somebody does. But
because
yeah, it's crazy. I remember that, like Bloomberg. Yeah, you can't have big sodas, and people were outraged about it.
yeah, they were pissed off. Oh, and I remember they said, "Well, what about the family who can only afford to eat at McDonald's?" I'm like, "Motherfucker, they better start cooking." You crazy? Like, listen, the big soda thing. I had an issue with it because obviously he was telling us what not to do.
What to
You know,
do? Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, Bloomberg was a scumbag. He threw in a
Mm-hmm.
third term for himself, right? He went
Yeah,
one, two,
crazy.
and he says, "Well, I'm going to stay for a third term because financially the city's a wreck." Meanwhile, when Giuliani wanted to do it for 9/11, he says, "Well, I don't think I should leave
Right.
the city," which he was right. Giuliani shouldn't have left the city while the city was rebuilding from 9/11. But Bloomberg was a big proponent, came out and said, "No, he can't do it. Fuck that." And I mean, he didn't say "fuck that," but Bloomberg and white
Yeah.
book, right? He was like, "Oh, you can't do that." And then uh, Giuliani was like, "All right, fine." So then
Yeah.
fucking Bloomberg turns around and does it, and nobody calls him out on the hypocrisy. It was like, what the
No,
fuck?
it's crazy. And then he made it so that he could only do it, and then after that, it's like
They
that's
closed it
it.
again. Yeah, I was like, you fucking kid. And again, nobody called him on it. Like it was. I mean, like, all right, a few people called him on it, but not enough to make a fucking
Right.
difference.
Yeah. It still happens.
Right,
Exactly.
right. It still happened, and now, I mean, somebody like I could see Adams trying to pull this shit. I mean, listen, Adams is ran for mayor of New York City so that he could uh, enter the political arena. So right now he's in a political arena, and I think he's going to run for like senator or fucking, maybe president, which I hope not, because he's another one. If he runs for president, I'm going to destroy his campaign. I'm going to go out of my fucking way to destroy his campaign. I was lining up for De Blasio, but De Blasio, I guess, took a poll and found out how bad he was, and he was like, "Well, I'm not going to run." So if
Yeah.
uh, Adams runs, that's it. I'm making my personal mission to stand in front of his places and destroy his fucking his. That's fuck that dude. I mean, fuck them all, man. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, a lot of people seem to they fail to realize, and like I said, you said you didn't vote for Trump. First time around, I didn't vote for him, because I know
Hmm.
who Trump is. I've been following the guy
Hmm.
since I was a kid. I
Hmm.
knew his
He
moves
was very popular at one point, and like, and then
early 2000s.
he was just popular. I remember the rappers used to rap about him. He was in Home Alone. Like, he had his he had his show for a reason. Like,
Yes.
people liked him at one point.
Well, right, and then they saw him on a political stage, and then I liked him on a political stage, but
Mm,
people fail to realize that politicians work for us, not the other way around. And
exactly.
right,
Yep.
and the problem is people like hoping Trump runs again, which I do hope Trump runs again. Although I don't think I'm gonna vote for him this time around because of a couple of things that popped up about him that he did. It's not like conspiracies that he did, but my point is that we keep looking to these politicians to fucking save us, and they are not the fucking people to save us.
Right.
People of America are supposed to save themselves
Mm-mm.
by making sure we get the right person in there and not looking to Trump or Biden or Kamala Harris to save us. The fucking country saved
Yeah.
itself from its
Exactly.
own government or future government, and when we had the first war in this country, right, and then we had the fucking civil war, which obviously was run by politicians, but we are supposed to be those that put those people in office and vet them as such, and not just sit there
Yeah.
and listen to the empty promises. And when they don't fulfill that promise, we should be able to drag them
Just be
out of
like,
the fuck.
oh well.
Right, that's the problem.
Yeah. People
They
don't
should
stay engaged.
say again.
People don't stay engaged, and I think we've all been guilty of it. It'd be like too much to just follow every politician all the time and see what they're doing. But now that I'm older and wiser, right, I think it's important to stay engaged with politics, not
Yeah.
only on a national level but specifically on a local level, and show up to those like meetings and hearings. Every now and then. You don't have to like live and breathe it, but definitely like know what's going on, at least in your little corner of life, so
Yes.
that you could hopefully affect positive change. Like, if you see something that's going on that you don't like, start speaking out and getting your little voter blocks ready, to call people out to go to these hearings and share your testimony or submit something. Like, if you see something that's going on your block that you don't like.
Right.
Did you hear about this council member that is trying to pass a bill? It's pretty much a snitch bill,
No shit.
where if I believe if somebody is parked in a bike lane, that you can report it and you get money from the city.
Really?
Like, this is the shit that I'm talking about. He's a council member out of Greenpoint. Like, that is ridiculous. Like, and I think that it's a softening of the people, though. And people might get mad because they're like, don't compare it to Nazi Germany. And I'm not. But what people fail to realize is that Hitler didn't come in from one day to the next and was like,
Right.
hey, let's kill all these people. No, it was a softening of people, where it made it easy for neighbors to just be like, well, it's not me. So, you know,
Right.
and oh, we're not going to, they're going to kill us if we don't say that so and so is doing this. So, like, when you could turn your back on your fellow neighbor, like someone that you see every day and that you actually know, for someone that is just like a politician that's out there that's putting fear in your heart, that shit's scary. That's a degradation of like polite society, I think.
Well, exactly. You're right. They're softening us with the same tactics. It's like, oh, we don't want to forget about history so that history doesn't repeat itself. Meanwhile, in Germany, they're trying to get rid of every every essence, if you will, of Hitler and anything that has to do with him being mentioned. In the history books in Germany, they were looking to get rid of. I don't know if they did it, but they were looking to get rid
Mm,
of Hitler in the history books. In our history books, they're looking to get rid of that slavery because they don't want to teach the hardships to these people. So again, then they try to absolve that. They try to get rid of it. And then here we are repeating history again with the same kind of shit. Saying, for example, MAGA people are extremists and bad for the country. Coming out of the president
right.
of the United States mouth, right?
Yeah. And
And
calling parents that show up to their school board meetings, labeling them as domestic terrorists.
terrorists, right? So again,
That's crazy.
it's we're headed in that same direction. The only thing is that we have a changing of the guards a lot more frequently than they did back then. That's the only difference.
Hmm.
I mean, I know like when I grew up, when I was growing up, and I heard about Hitler, the way the media made it sound like they made it sound like he was in office one day and decided to wake up to one morning and said all of them in concentration camps. When you
Hmm.
look at the history of it, you're like, this took years to get to this
Hmm.
point to then and to that point. And I'm like, okay. And then 15 years later, I'm seeing the same shit now, and I'm like, what the fuck? How the fuck are we
Yeah.
not seeing these same movements, these same speech patterns, the same rhetoric,
Yeah.
and we're just not calling these people out on it? I mean, am I going
Yeah.
to end up in a fucking internment camp somewhere because because I keep thinking the way I think? They want to change
Right.
the thought process, right? They want you to fall
Yeah.
in line, and we can't fall in line. And I can't listen. I mean, I
No.
know a lot of people, want to vote for Trump, and I hear you. But if a man is against the 2A, pushed the shot out and said Klaus Schwab is doing a great job, I can't vote for anybody who's those are three strikes right there. That was, my third strike was a Klaus Schwab shit. I'm like, seriously? And I had to look it up, and I'm like, fucking shit,
We got
So
to get people on board to the Libertarian Party.
yeah,
That's what needs to take take hold right now because that's what they've been fighting for. It's like true liberty. Let's give this an actual shot. Being true libertarians of letting people mostly self-govern, have limited government, and let's actually take the Declaration of Independence for what it is, the Constitution for what it is, the Bill of Rights for what it is. Let's try to live off that.
right. And keep it
Let's
simple.
stop all this taxing. Like, what are we getting taxed for? Like the way we are, it's crazy.
Now,
It's
somebody
crazy.
said Biden is an undercover racist as well. Alan, Biden
He's
is
not
not.
undercover.
No, he's not. Thank you. He's not undercover. He's out in the open. This guy fucking hated black folks, and he had made it known numerous times in numerous speeches on camera and off camera. So he's not. And again, I'm definitely not voting for him. I mean, like, I hope Biden breaks a hip. Like seriously.
No, you can't wish that on people because then that shit comes right back to you.
I'm willing to tell. Listen, if I break my hip, if as long as he breaks his hip first and I break my hip second, I'm fucking fine with it. I can care less. But as long as this man fuck, because I mean, listen, one side of me also can't blame Biden at this point because he's not there. He's clearly
No,
sick. There's something wrong with the man. So that's one reason why I don't have that hatred for him like I do for Eric
right.
or De Blasio. The
Mm,
people who
mm,
told the people of the city who protected the city, who ran into danger for people, you can go fuck yourselves because you didn't take the arm ticket. And for that, I legitimately hate those two guys. If those two
mm.
dudes had ass cancer tomorrow, I would throw an ass cancer party for both of them. Right? That's where I stand because fuck those guys. Militant, thank you. I mean, it's just what it is. And you're right. We have to go back to just laws of the Constitution and things of that nature. Keep it simple. Like you said, the taxing is
Mm.
getting out of control. It's getting way out
It's
of control.
crazy. And
Um,
even like all the licensing, like the fact that people don't question why can't we store rainwater? Why is it illegal to do that? That's nuts. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Why can't I drink raw milk? Why
Right.
is that so like vilified? It it's crazy.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean,
Anything.
but it makes perfect sense when I think about, oh, because they're trying to control every aspect of our lives, and they're trying to have us dependent on government
No,
because a dependent people is a controllable population. Duh.
exactly.
So,
I mean, listen, if you looked at Katrina and you looked at the problems these people went through, these people kept turning around and asking, "Where's the government? Where's the help?" And I'm like, man, if I lived down there and I was a prepper, I'd be like, "Help's right here in my home. I'm helping myself and
right.
my family. I'm not relying on a fucking government that took 5 to 6 days to get there on land to get there to help the first people. Never mind
Hmm.
everyone else. It took them weeks to get to who were deeper in the bayou, not the bayou, sorry, who were deeper in the cities that were harder to get to because of debris and all that
Hmm.
bullshit. And then you had the Superdome problem, right? So this is why, I mean, switching gears, this is why we prepare. So we don't end up in that fucking boat. Even though, look what happened to Florida. I'm pretty sure if there were preppers in some of those areas, their shit got wiped out. But at least they
Yeah.
tried. At least they tried. They tried to make a stance and it didn't work. Boil the rainwater, 100. Yeah, but listen. Um, with that being said, oh man, we went over the hour. That
Oh
was
wow.
that was really fast. But being that you and Paul are still fighting this fight, I would definitely like to have both of you guys back on, if you don't mind. And
Yeah.
I do appreciate you guys both coming on. I appreciate you coming on tonight, being that you guys just got back to work and there's a million things that you're probably thinking of right now, or have to deal with rather. Sorry, that that you're gonna have to do in the next couple of days. Um, anyway, listen. With that, guys, for those of you that are donating to the Bravest for Choice, I do appreciate it. Thank you for donating. And there's going to be a
Thank
lot of
you.
people. There are still a bunch of people that are out, still on LWOP. Sorry, still suspended because their suspension went through. Their what you call their medical got denied, or their religious exemption got denied.
The
They're,
religious. Hmm.
right, they're still hanging out and still suspended and looking to get back to work. So for those of you that donated, I do appreciate you. Thank you. Um, 2023. You don't have a YouTube channel, right? You guys just have the Bravest for Choice YouTube channel.
Yeah, there's a Bravest for Choice YouTube channel. We have the Instagram, Bravest for Choice,
All right.
and we have the website. We actually need someone to help us with our website. Like, you know, we're just a bunch of firefighters that started this, and a lot of the original guys that were the good web designers. Everybody, like, once they got that, they kind of like dispersed. And so our website needs some updating because we do want to update the public and let them know exactly what's going on.
Okay.
Let them hear some of our stories and let them know that this fight continues. Like, our website isn't updated, but you know, the money that we've raised has all gone to our legal, and it's just banked there. We are trying to right now figure out who we can help with small amounts of money here and there, um, from our group, like from the terminated members specifically, who they might they might not come back. We don't know what's going to happen. We want to try to set them up, in some way or another. I do think though that we're winning. I think that the tides are turning and that the truth, you can't squelch it for long. Like, it's going to come out. So I do think we're winning, and I'm hopeful, and I remain hopeful, um, no matter what happens. But I think we're going to win. I think those guys will have the option to come back, hopefully, specifically the terminated ones. And that's the hope that I hold out, and I hope too that people will, turn to the people that did the hard thing, and then realize, like, I'm flesh and blood. I've had many nights where I'm crying, and like I would just look at Tommy and be like, "Yo, today is fucking hard," and then that was it. And then suck it up, Buttercup. Tomorrow's a new day. Like, let's go.
All right.
Well, where else can I protest? Who else could hear this story? Like, what more do we need to get to the lawyers? Like, it's just moving through the hard shit, and it's going through it. Like, people try to circumvent suffering and pain, and that's just part of the human experience. So
Big
just got to move through it and remain hopeful.
big time. Well, listen. Again, thank you for coming on. And you're right. I would like, or we would like it to be easier for those that are still out because they're still suffering. And even, I mean, listen, the money helps out a little, but I think what hurts more is just being abandoned, like a lot of us felt um, when the hammer was dropped on us. So, with that being said, Sophie, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And guys, thank you for the donation. And I will see a lot of you guys in 2 minutes or so. All right, guys, thank you for joining us tonight.
Right. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everybody.